Welcome to Saugatuck Gallery's World of Oil Paintings. All paintings selected for this video catalog are painted by hand. No two are exactly alike.
I don't really know why we picked the name Secrets. They're really not something that's secrets to me. Is like something you hide from people. I think in this case it's just a matter of you know, finding your own way of going out and painting. You know, a lot of it is what to take with you and what not to take with you. You know, when I first started, I had to make like 3 trips back to the car to get all my stuff, you know, all the paper, something to sit on, you know, water, the whole thing. And being the lazy person that I am, I kept thinking there's got to be an easier way of doing this, you know. I'll just keep trying to compact this and compact it until I've got everything with me and I don't have to go back and get anything. So that's one of the big things about painting on location is making it comfortable. You don't want to have to go and fiddle with a lot of gear and a lot of this, a lot of that. I want to get there and I want to throw paint and I want to do it now, you know. What I'm after when I go out and paint is the experience of painting on location, the feeling. It's not the painting so much. The painting is just, I guess you could call it, it's kind of like fishing, you know. You bait your hook, you go to the place, you know, do all that stuff. Once you catch the fish, it's over. So it's all that stuff before you catch the fish. I can't think of anything else to compare that to, but it's the experience. It's packing your gear in the morning, thinking about a place you saw that you'd like to go back and take another look at it. It's a lot of that. It's the anticipation. It's like going on vacation, for me. Don't take it serious. See, you are your own worst critic anyway. And, you know, in your daily life, you're getting bombarded with all these stuff that you got to do, you know, and you really can't take it serious because I don't think you get as much out of it. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not serious about what I do, because I am. It's very important to me to do this. It makes me feel special to myself. I communicate with myself when I'm doing this. I give myself this gift, this present. Here, Bob, let's go paint. Whenever I go out and paint, what I try to do is I try to think to myself, okay, this is the first time I've ever seen this, okay? Here again, I try not to put names on things like trees. Let's use a landscape, for example. If I say tree, then automatically I've compromised myself because it's like, okay, my brain says, well, the tree, let's see, a tree's got a brown trunk and it's got green leaves, you know? So I paint that. If I paint that, then I should have stayed home, you know? That tree each thing is its own personality. See, it has its own characteristics. It's like people or snowflakes. There's no two alike. This is your opportunity to stop and take a look. You know, really take a look. and like you've never seen it before, like a kid. Everything, to a kid, everything is like, wow, you know? It's discovery. And you still get that. You can still do that. And that's what this is all about, is discovery. It's not what you put in the picture, it's what you leave out of the picture. I know that sounds kind of funny. What I do, here's what I do. I go to a place, the first thing I start doing is squinting. I don't know if you watch my videos, you'll see me doing this all the time. You know, it's not that I'm in pain or anything, it's just that what I'm trying to do is simplify everything I see. Squinting brings values closer together. It separates all those different values like lights and darks. It kind of simplifies everything. It makes big shapes. And through experience, what I found is that helps me not to paint so much detail at first. I used to have trouble drawing people or painting pictures of people because it's very intimidating. You feel like you should make it look just like them. So as soon as I would say the word people, my mind would go like, oh, you know, or eyes. I got to draw the eyes. And then my mind would have all these symbols for eyes and so on and so forth. But what I finally realized to do is treat all subjects like they're shapes. Pretend like you're drawing a chair. Of course, there's the chair word. Think of it as shapes. Don't think of it as eyes or nose or lips or hair. Think of them as shapes. And that simplifies the way you can interpret things. That's very important, extremely important. All of this is actually rethinking. We all start out as artists, as kids. Everybody had a box of Crayolas, you know, and coloring book, that kind of thing. Trying to express yourself. If you'll notice kids' drawings or paintings, they tend to simplify everything. They take everything, bang, there it is. There's a tree is green, and it's this shape, and they don't, it's all abstract to them. Very abstract. They make abstract shapes. They simplify everything, and it's wonderful. One of the things you can do is start with the largest brush possible. I know if you watch some of my videos, some of my brushes are like that big, you know. Well, sometimes even that's not big enough. The reason for that, if you can compare that to, say, painting your living room, you know, you don't start out with a brush like that to paint your living room walls. You start out with a roller or a big brush because you've got a large area to cover, a large statement to make. And then as you get into the trim or things like that, then you go to a smaller brush. The same thing with painting thing. And all these things kind of scare people. It's like, oh, gee, I got to know all this kind of stuff before I can draw or paint. But that's not what it is, see? As you start throwing paint, and that's why I use that term all the time, I'm going to throw paint. The reason I say that is I'm setting myself up to do that. I'm not setting myself up to go do a photograph, and I got to get in there and I got to put all this little detail stuff in there. You know, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to throw some paint at this paper, this expensive piece of paper. I used to be intimidated to go out and sketch and paint. I wanted so very badly, you know, but it's like I better not go around where there's any people because somebody might come up and like, look at that, yeah, you can draw. You know, what I figured out was nobody has ever done that. I don't care if you get out and draw stick people. Nobody's going to come up and laugh at you. It just doesn't happen. The reason being is what I found out was, and this is why I love to go out and paint, people admire you. You can hear them off in the distance. Here they come. You know, I'll be painting and they'll be walking towards me. I can hear them say, oh, look, an artist. See, you're already an artist. And they haven't even seen what you're doing. And they wouldn't know if it was right or wrong anyway. There isn't any right or wrong. It's all subjective. They might not like what you're painting or drawing. They might not like it, but they admire you for doing it. I used to go out by myself painting all the time, and that's okay. I still do that. Then I got with, started for some friends of mine that I found that, you know, I convinced to, you know, come along with me and that kind of thing. Really got interested in this. What it does is it makes it less intimidating to go out and paint with some other people because it's kind of spread out. It's not just you. See, it's like 2 or 3 of you. There are some people that you wish would go away. That does happen. And of course, it all depends on your tolerances at the time. You may be having a bad, like I call them, a bad hair day, you know, where you're painting and nothing seems to be going right, and you wish that you could just kind of like disappear, so you wasn't there and start over again somewhere else, or go home, hide. And here comes these people, you know, and they're all like, wow, you know, and you're going, this painting. Why couldn't I have done something really good, you know? They don't care, they don't know, they don't know. They're there, they're admired, and they leave, you know? There's things you can do, like you can bring a headset with a radio, like, you know, headset, like you don't hear anybody, you know? And if you do see them, just pretend like you acknowledge they're there and just keep painting. Ignore them. What are they going to do? Pull off your headphones and make you talk to them? You know, you can do that. That's one way of keeping to yourself. There's some silly things I've done too. This fellow John Hunter that is in one of the videos, and I were in Saugatuck, downtown Saugatuck, painting, and this has been a couple of years ago. And people were just like, every 3 seconds, you know, it's like they stop and getting right in your way when you're trying to see. And this kind of, we were on a sidewalk, so it's like they had the right to be there too. So we were kind of joking around about this, and I remembered one time when I was in New York City how you'd see people playing a horn or something that have their hat down on the ground for people to throw money in. So being the kind of person I am, which is kind of silly anyway, I thought, I got an idea. So I took my hat off. Believe it or not, I took my hat off, and I put it down on the ground, and I put a couple of dollars in there, dollar bills. Nobody bothered us. It stopped. It was like he shut the water off, you know? Now, I don't know if it was because I had my hat off and there was so much glare, or if it was because it was like, well, I'm supposed to do something here. If I want these, I'm supposed to put the money in the hat. I don't know. So that's, you know, kind of an extreme thing. But it was, John and I still joke about that. In watercolor, what you tend to be doing constantly is painting one object at the same time you're painting another object. They're both happening simultaneously. Now, don't let that scare you. Basically what that is, and when I teach classes sometimes, and especially with children, what I like to do is use the example of taking a black pen and making a white letter. And the kids just love this. They say, oh, wow, how are you going to do that? You can't do that, and that kind of a thing. So this is how I illustrate that. For instance, I'll take and just say draw a black box, something like this. Just make a kind of a black square. And this is what you do when you paint in watercolor. You're painting around something to make something else. Now, for instance, and I'm using examples of lettering here just to simplify it. Okay, I have a black outline here in a white box. Now I'm going to make 3 more white boxes. I'm going to make my name. Now, this is kind of a primitive example, but what I have to do is not paint the letter, but paint what is around the letter. So I can go in here, and this takes a little bit of practice, but it really helps you when you go to paint in watercolor. Now you can see it. So I made a white letter with a black pen. You need to have your own style of painting. There is no one way of painting. Some people paint loose and some people paint real tight. And what you have to basically kind of discover your own way. You have to take what you consider your strengths and work with those. Let's say you take a class and say the teacher says this is how it's done. Well, that's not necessarily true. If that were true, then everybody would look alike, and everybody would paint alike, and talk alike, and you know, eat the same food and everything. So you have to explore. You have to constantly discover. You have to open yourself up for discovery. Experiment. You have to, you know, you have to waste. I don't call it waste, but you have to go through a lot of paper. Go through a lot of paper. Here again, this goes back to what I like to say, and that is go out and throw some paint and just let it happen. A lot of people think that, I guess they consider watercolor an accidental kind of a medium. Well, there is some of that in there, but the part that makes it better or go beyond that is knowing what those accidents are, or knowing what to do with those. They're not really what you would call mistakes. I used to go out and paint, and I would make mistakes. So then I discovered, well, let's not do that. Let's go out and have an accident. Okay? So that kind of relieved me to make something out of these accidents. I say, okay, if paint runs down this way, and I go, well, you know, I can cry about it and all that, or I can make something out of that. If I splatter something, I can make birds out of it. That's the fun of watercolor, is making it. It's a live kind of action. You put it down and it keeps moving. It doesn't stop like say some opaque medium like oil or something like that. Everybody has their own you know, their own preferences as far as things they like. I consider myself, I guess, what you'd call a pretty picture painter. I like pretty places. You know, they're pretty to me. I like landscapes with a little creek running through them, you know, and some trees, and I like things like a little farmhouse up on a hill, and you know, I like maybe a rundown, beat-up old barn, or a backside of a building that's fallen apart, that kind of thing. Something that's interesting, you know, something that's, to me, it's pretty, even though it may be run down. The reason being is watercolor really applies itself to this sort of subject. You can, for instance, if you go find an old barn that's about to fall over and paint that, you don't really have to, you don't have to get into all the perspective and, you know, the drawing part. You can make it, if you can't draw very well, you can, you know, it looks right because it's already falling down, you know. So that's what I would start off with, is things like that, simple things, simple shapes. Composition is a very, very subjective kind of thing. And what I'm trying to think is, how can I make this unusual? For instance, you can do things like let's see, you've got, let's say this is your picture. Let's just say that you're looking at a field, and there's no trees or anything in it. And what I'm going to say is, now, okay, now am I going to show the field, or am I going to show the sky? Which one is going to show off which one? So I could say, well, okay, I'm going to make a low or a high ground. I'm going to put my ground up here and just show field. And this is sky, so that's dramatic. That can be dramatic. I have all this grass and stuff in here, you know, like that. And then maybe a person walking back there. Okay, now I didn't put him in the center because it's more interesting. He still has this distance to go, or this distance to go, or he has come this far. Or I can take the same picture, like so, and make a low ground. Now I've got a big dramatic sky with lots of, say, puffy clouds or something like that, you know? And I can come back with the same person, put him down here, see? So it's a matter of weight. It's a matter of taking the usual and making it unusual. Let's go out to the studio and I'll show you some of the things I take with me when I go paint, and how I set my palette up, and some of the paper I like to use, and how I deal with that kind of thing. All right, what I want to show you now is some of the things that I use when I go painting on location. But basically I do have the basic red, yellow, and blue here, just to simplify it. Don't let color scare you, because it's not scary at all, really. Let me go through and I'll explain how I feel personally towards these colors. I do have a rapport with them, but don't tell anybody, okay? You know, they kind of mean different things to me at different times, so I'm just that kind of guy, you know? That's why us artists are supposed to be a little weird. All right, now let me show you what some of these colors do and how you can apply them towards, you know, like when you go out painting on location. Let's start with the phthalo green. Okay, now this is the one that's real powerful stuff. By powerful, I mean it doesn't take a whole lot to get a lot of color. Now, of course, I'm mixing this with water. Now, this is what transparent watercolor is all about, where the earth and the sky meet. Now, in that general area, you'll start seeing this color. Let's take a look at ultramarine blue. This is another one of my favorite colors. This is kind of what they call a warm blue. But, of course, if you add certain colors to that, you can make it cool, too. Let's just put that up in there. Now, if you kind of brush those together, you'll get, you start getting a different color there. You get a third color. You get a nice cool blue or a warm green. Okay, let's do the phthalo blue here. I didn't add any of that because this is plenty here. This stuff goes a long way. This is a real intense color also. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Of course, you can thin that out and use it like in skies and stuff like that too. So you just add water to it. That's one of the things about watercolor, is the white of the paper is actually your white. Isn't that pretty? I love it. I love it when it does that. It's kind of a wet into wet there I've got going. Into this alizarin crimson. As you can see, that paint's still kind of wet there, so it's kind of, I pulled more than I needed to in there, but that's okay. All right, let's come up here and see what happens when I put this up here. So you kind of almost got a pink there because you're seeing through the paint onto the paper. And of course, I've used a lot of water. So you can get a pink. Let me show you. I'll just keep thinning that out until we just almost have nothing but just pink. Now, if I put more paint and less water, we'll get more red. See? So you have quite a range there also. Now, if you mix that, say, with this blue, you'll get a purple. See that? Okay, now if you add, say, blue back into the red, then you'll get the same thing. Now, this is starting to dry, so this, let's see what happens here. See, you're getting purple again. So you can get purple several different ways. You can put red on blue or blue on red, depending on which color you put down first. Or you can mix it in your palette, like this. See, that's why the palettes are white. You can mix your purples or whatever color on your paper, or you can mix it in your palette and then put it on your paper. So you have quite a range of things you can do. Now, let me show you this. Up here again, I'll just find a white spot here. See, there's my purple. So I've done purple 3 different ways. And that holds true for all these colors. Isn't that pretty? Makes me want to go paint. Okay, let's keep moving here. Over into this Gamebo's yellow. Now this is a good buddy of mine too. It's really a nice color. Yellow is one of the lighter values in all the colors too. All right, let's put some of that up here. Of course, everybody knows what yellow looks like. Now let's add some of that to, say, this red over here. We should kind of get kind of an orange. It depends on which color you put down first. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little bit of orange in there now.
See that? So we've made 3 colors, or 2 colors there from 1, or from 2 colors. Now, of course, if you put yellow on purple, you're going to get kind of a gray. So then you can see how all these colors interact with each other. But there's the red, yellow, and blue, okay, of colors. Now, I have 1 color left, and that's the burnt sienna. Now, this is kind of a reddish brown color. It's almost like that Oklahoma clay. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Wow. I almost feel like talking about the happy brush. Yes. This is a happy painting here. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Bob. Okay, now, this color, I use it with all the others. Of course, I use all the others with all the others too, but for instance, back in with this blue now, I don't know if I can do this way. I was going to try to put some of this brown over here. You see how that's kind of, it's still wet, but it kind of makes it gray, okay? Now, if you look down here on the palette a second, I'll show you what I mean. I'll clean my brush out a little bit. Okay, now let's get some of this blue. Here's a little chunk here, and put it over here, like that. Rinse out my brush a little. And come here and get some of this burnt sienna and put it in there. Now we're going to get a gray. Look at that. Isn't that great? That's a cool gray because it has more blue in it than brown. Now let's make it warmer. Okay, I'm just adding more brown. You see that? Let's see what it looks like on the paper. Now this I do a lot of. This kind of ties everything together, these grays, warm and cool grays. And you can add colors into this gray too. Isn't that neat how you can make gray out of blue and brown? Okay, now back to the palette. Let's put, I'll show you another way you can make, not necessarily black, but a real dark color. Okay, I'll just get a lot of brown and a lot of this Windsor blue over here, or I'm sorry, French blue. Okay, more brown, more blue. They kind of neutralize each other. Now this could be like a dark color. It's almost a black. But it still, see, black doesn't have, black takes away from all the colors. That's why I like to mix my darks, my blacks, because I don't think black is black. I think it has color in it. See that? Now that's the same as this, except it's more intense. Look at that, isn't that great? Of course, now if you add more color, and less water, you keep getting darker. Almost pure color now. See, that's nice and dark. That's almost getting opaque. Isn't that great? But it has life now. And that's one reason I don't use black. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't use black. Try it. It kind of does basically the same thing. Some people don't notice it and others do. I happen to notice when you use black. I just, you know, it's a personal thing. So you have to experiment and you have to, you know, become your own kind of painter. All I can do is show you what I do, you know. So it doesn't mean it's wrong or right or anything. It just means that's what Bob does. So let's put in a few trees here. This is kind of neat. See, I'm getting off into the painting mode here already. Yeah, come down this way. Maybe put another tree over here. Just some shapes. And let's make them a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. Cool, huh? Make some grass here. Look at that. I feel like I'm going to break into song here any second. Now let's put a person there. A little dot here. Shape there. Yeah. Yeah. See what I mean? It's fun. Watercolor's great. Okay, I think that about covers all the, most all the points. It's just a basic skim across color thing. As you get into the painting and get out on location, you're going to learn a lot, believe me. And you'll mess up a lot of paper, or at least you'll think it's messed up. Let me show you some of my brushes that I use. Funny thing about brushes, you kind of get and this is going to sound silly to you, but you get a rapport with your brushes. Each one has its own personality. And so I used to have names for them, but I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. At least I'm not going to tell you what I named them. So let me show you what I got. I've got this is a 2-inch flat here. Of course, this is the Big Daddy here. This is the one I do most of the painting with. The reason being is, and I've said this in my tapes, some of my videos, is that I try to stay away from detail at first. I put the big shapes and the big washes in, and that's what I use this for. So let me show you what that looks like. Just take a little bit of this palette color that I have here, and I'll just make a stroke with that. I'll show you some of the different things I can do with this brush. Like I said, I just come up and you can make a nice big wash with it. You can cover things quickly. I kind of use it like that. I also can go around certain areas with this brush. Like say I want to leave some white spaces. I can kind of paint around things like that. The bigger shapes. See the white? And then I can come back, say, and I do my brushes this way too. I'll kind of do a lot of like scraping around like that. That kind of makes like a dry brush effect. See that? You can use that for like trees. You just kind of get it wet with color and just kind of hold it sideways, kind of let it drag around like that. What I could do here is get this rigger brush and then come back here and make kind of a tree against a silhouette. Now this rigger brush is great. Let's put a limb in there, or a trunk in there, another branch, branch there, branch here. You see how that's starting to kind of look like could maybe possibly be a tree? Maybe. See that? Isn't that fun? Come down here, and I also use this rigger brush that way too, not only just to make tree limbs, but you know, to kind of make little shapes down on the ground or in a building or whatever. I also use it to make grass. Like that. The tree over here. Now, let's go to the flat brush. This is one of my big buddies here. I like this brush. I do a lot of painting with this. It looks, you're probably thinking, gosh, I can't paint with those big brushes. They're just too big. I mean, I won't be able to paint anything. You'd be surprised what your hands can do. You can really take an object that you think is big like this and really get into a lot of detail. All right. Now let me get a new sheet here and I'll show you what I mean. Now this brush is nice and flat. You can really get some really precise corners and things like that. Let's say you're painting trees around a white house. Okay, you can make the shape of that house. Okay, there's what the size of the brush is. And let's make one corner of the roof like that. And then let's make the other corner like that. Okay, and then let's come down under the eave. Go out here, back under the eave. Can you see the house yet? You can probably start seeing part of it. And then I take this the same brush, like I did with the bigger brush a while ago, and make trees. Something like that. Okay, now I'll get a little bit thinner on this palette gray color with the same brush. A little bit more water in that. Now let's say that the sun is coming from over here someplace, so I'll make this side of the house shadowed. This is probably very light. Something like that. Can you kind of see the house yet? let's put a little bit of shadow underneath the eave here. Something kind of like that. All right, let's just take that same color and put some shapes out in here, like a grassy field or something. I also use the very corner of this brush, like this, just the very tip of it. I use that for, you know, making different shapes, grass or whatever it might be. Also, you can take and if you drag your brush, any of these brushes, if you get paint in them and you drag them real fast, you can make stuff like that. It drags across the paper, and this is very useful like when you're making water, like the sun's on the water and you get all these little sparkly things. That's good for that. In fact, I used that in one of my paintings I did up in Muskegon, Michigan. There's all kinds of different round brushes. I'll show you. This happens to be it looks kind of mean, but you can really get a lot of water in there, you know, and boy, it just goes everywhere, and the water runs and drips and all that. You have a great time with this. Probably should almost wear like a raincoat with this thing. So there's all kinds of brushes. You know, you can have a lot of fun with them. All right, let's talk about paper. I use the 300-pound. It does not buckle. You know how paper, you get it wet and it does this and it drives you crazy. The 300-pound doesn't buckle, but it costs more, okay? So I do have some of that. Now, what I mostly use, because I'm just going out in the field and I'm going to throw some paint and it's just a sketch, okay? I use the 140-pound, and that's what this is. And it's the same paper. It's Arches. It's 140-pound, and I cut it in two. What I do is I stick it on my easel, or on my watercolor board. By the way, this is just a piece of old plywood here. And as you can see in most of my videos that I've done, I put these clips in the corner, like this. Now here again, it doesn't matter to me if this buckles a little bit. It used to irritate me, and I'd go nuts and scream and holler a lot, but I don't do that anymore. I've kind of learned to live with it. When you paint, you've got these clips on here, and okay, this starts to buckle, you know? So what I do is, I come over here, I take a clip loose, I pull it, and then I put the clip back. And then I'll come over here, pull the paper this way, put the clip back on. Same, all the way around until, after a while, it lays flat again. So I've saved myself the time of stapling and all that. Now you do get little messes like this around where you put the clips, but those really don't matter because you put a mat on this, that goes away. All right, then we have what I call my buddy here. This is Mr. Easel. This has 3 legs, and it originally was designed for oil painting, and I've converted it to a watercolor easel. So let me show you how I set that up, because over the years I've learned how to set it up the easy way. It tends to get out of hand because it's got so many legs and you're trying to hold on to it and set it up at the same time. So what I usually do is start with the right leg, get that set in there, tighten it down, let my leg all the way out, and then balance everything on that one leg. But I really like standing up when I paint. But I get those set up like that, and then I lift up this part here, and this is where I set my paper. And then I have these 2 little boxes here that I built. Okay, that one goes in there, and I set my brushes in that one. What I usually try to do is face my paper in so that it's in the shade. The sun is going to be moving this direction, so I'm going to turn this just a little bit like this until I get it out of the sun. I don't really need to go that far. I can come back. Otherwise, if you're staring at a sheet of white paper, you tend to get snow blind, so that's why I do that. We've covered the palette and the paint and some of the brushes. Let's talk about some way to get from where you are to where you want to paint. Now, through the years, I've kind of trimmed all this stuff down to one trip. I'm basically lazy, so I don't like to keep going back to the car and getting the stuff and taking it, you know, back and forth. So I kind of figured out how to carry everything in one trip. Let me show you what I do. Now this is just an old, I found this in the trash. It's had some kind of chemicals in it, so I rinsed it out real good. I used to use this as my water container, and that fits. What I also take is this. It's kind of a backpack little thing. It's, you know, you can get these things anywhere. It's got a couple of straps and a zipper, and you know, there's plenty of room to put a lot of stuff in. A couple of pockets. So something like that. And this is what I put my water in when I paint. What I do is I hook this to my easel in the front here, like that. It hooks on a little nail I've got over here. And I put my water in there. Now this is, I'm not sure what country made this particular one, but it's a canteen. You've seen these things in Army surplus stores. So that I use that because it's aluminum and it's tough. They do make, you can find like a plastic thing, you know, and do the same thing with it. I happen to like the aluminum. That goes in there. And then what you have to do is try to find you a, now I won't tell you that this is a motel towel because it's not really a motel towel, but they do, I think they might make good paint rags, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, that goes in there, a good old towel. And I stick that down in my water thing. Okay, then I've got my Mr. Sponge. I take, it's a natural sponge, you know. I use it sometimes to wet the paper. You know, in a hurry, I'll dip it down in there and get the whole paper wet real fast. I take one of those. Let's see, what else? Oh, in the pockets, I usually throw a few tubes of paint in. Oh yeah, I'm nice and going real fast here. Just grab some paint, extra paint, in case you need it. You know, I throw that in there. Usually put that in there like that. And I put a few extra pencils in case I want to just sketch. Like that. I take a little masking tape, you know, in case I want to mask something out. I think in one of my videos, I showed you how to use the masking tape. Now, what else I usually take is, since I like to get out and just, you know, find a really neat place, I'll put my lunch in there, you know, paper bag with some food in it, and cookies and that kind of stuff. Maybe a couple of Cokes or whatever, Pepsi if you prefer. And, you know, just anything you think you might need. You know, maybe a little toilet paper or something. I don't know. You never know. So what I do is I zip all that up like that. All right, there we go. Now what I can do, see, is I can just take this, and I usually just throw it over one shoulder like that. You don't need to run out and spend a whole lot of money. It's taken me a long time to accumulate all this junk, stuff. This great stuff. You know, like you buy the easel, they're going to cost you anywhere from $119 to $200 or more, okay? Paper, a package of paper is going to be like 40, 50 bucks. The brushes, you know, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a single brush. Let's talk about paint again. Like I said, at the time, right now I use Winsor Newton paint, and depending on the colors you buy, they can run anywhere from $4 to 15 bucks a tube. So that gets pretty expensive. There are alternatives, and I have used these. For instance, there's it's called Cotman, and it's also made by Winsor Newton. Now these are smaller tubes, and the paint, I've used these paints, you can hardly tell the difference between this and the more expensive stuff. It's also made by Winsor Newton, and it's just what they call their student grade or their beginner's grade, and I don't know why they call them that because I use them, and I guess I'm still a beginner, I don't know. Okay, now let's talk about brushes. What is happening in this new great age of ours is they're coming out with these synthetic brushes, and they are incredible. I've tried these things and they're great. In fact, some of the brushes that I actually use are synthetic. I don't know how they do it, but they sure feel like sable used to feel, and they act, you know, pretty much the same way. So you can get cheaper brushes. Also, the reason that it's not a good idea to buy a real expensive brush is you're on location, okay? You're not in a studio. You're out in the elements, the rain, wind, cold, whatever. You know, you don't want to get out there and lose a $100 brush, you know, and it's like, I can't find it, it's gone. So go with a cheaper brush, you know. You're going to abuse them and use them when you're out painting like that. So you can get by with cheaper brushes. Now this is incredibly light, okay? This is what they call gator board. Now I don't know why they call it gator board, but that's what they call it. And it's got almost like a plastic kind of surface with a foam core middle. And I imagine that you could probably beat this up pretty good. Now, these are relatively inexpensive, and they would probably take a lot of abuse. I imagine after a while the corners would start coming loose, but of course that's the same thing's happened with my board also. So now, what you're trying to do here is you're trying to travel light, you know. I use this easel. I stand up when I paint. A lot of people can't do that. So just don't take a whole lot of junk with you, you know. You don't have to go that far from your car. If you do, believe me, you'll carry less. So let's pretend like I just got through with a painting and I'm ready to go. Anyway, I'm getting ready to leave, so I let all this stuff down like this. My paper off. Go ahead and close it down, like so. It's got a couple of little hooks over here to keep the whole thing together, like that. Then what I do with my palette, this is another reason why I like this Pike palette, is I put it right in here like that. Now there's a space in here, and originally it was made for canvas, but I utilize it this way. I've got this plywood board that I use, and it's like about maybe 3/8 of an inch thick. Okay, then I just set that right in there like that and like this. See, and that fits in there perfect. Then I tighten this down. Then what I do is I take my paper that I'm taking with me and my painting that I just got done, and I can lay that right up there like that along with my paper. And then I have my 4 clips like so. This way I can take 5, 6, 7 sheets of paper. Where are my other clips? There they are. Oh, 4 clips. Okay, now I've got my paper, the painting I just did. What you could do too is, like, you can go to an office supply store and buy a large envelope that will, you know, that is the size of your paper or maybe a little larger, and that way you can carry 3, 4, 5 sheets of paper, half sheets, along with your paintings, you know, and then fold that up and clip that to your board, like so. Then what I do is I go ahead and put my easel back, my legs back up on my easel, and grab my water bag, my bag with all my stuff in it, throw it over my shoulder, grab my easel with my strap, and off I go. Well, I think we about covered everything. You know, it's up to you what you take with you and don't take. After you've gone to your site, you know, and you'll know whether you got too much junk with you or not. So try to take as little as possible, but take what you need. And also remember to clean up after yourself. I think I've mentioned that before. But I'll tell you what, all this talking about painting and all this kind of stuff, I think I'm about ready to go. How about you? Come on, let's go someplace and throw some paint. Come on, let's go. It won't hurt. It's fun. Come on. Come on. You ready? Let's go. Come on. Not. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Fagan. Now this is the marketplace section of the video. I know, it's a commercial, okay? But hold on a minute. You know, my producer calls this part the Bob Fagan store anyway. And I think that's kind of neat because I'd like to have a store. Just go in at any time I want to get what I need. You know, also this part of the video is very important to us because we have to sell things to keep making these painting on location videos, and that's what this is all about. So hang on, take a look-see, you know, you might find something you like. If you're not interested in any of them, you can, you know, turn the tape off now. But if you are, you might want to fast forward to the section you're most interested in. Now in this section I put together two kits. These two kits are basically the same kind of stuff that I use when I go out and paint. They're the same brands I use and all that. The starter kit includes 8 tubes of cotton watercolor and 4 cotton watercolor brushes. Now this kit also includes other materials you'll need for throwing paint at a very economical price too. The professional kit is for artists who want the same professional quality materials that I use. It includes 8 tubes of Winsor Newton Artist watercolor paints and 6 Scepter Gold watercolor brushes. Wow. This package also includes 6½ sheets of Arches watercolor paper, a natural sponge, a John Pike palette, a stiff board, and some bulldog clips for mounting your paper. Now this kit ain't cheap, but it'll give you the same tools that professional artists use all around the world. Now I've selected 3 easels that are very good for painting on location. Now the stand-right is the most economical and is also lightweight and easy to carry around. The Yarka is a really good value. Now can you believe it? This thing's made in Russia. This French type easel is a lot like the one I use. It ain't cheap, but it's all wood and very well built. It folds up nice and neat and has a carrying strap for taking out to those really remote locations. Now we have a bunch of other fun stuff that you might want to have, so why don't you take a look. You know, I'll tell you something. Personally, I'm very proud of all the videos, you know, the series that's on TV and all the instructional videos that we've done. The producer's proud and all the crews, they love them. And we get calls from people saying how much the tapes have really helped them. So why don't you take a look and see all the different tapes that we have available right now. There are 13 half-hour videos in the West Michigan series. Now you can buy them one at a time for $19.95 each, or the whole video set for only $179.95. Now that's not a bad buy. These are the same videos that have been seen all over the United States on public television. There are also 13 half-hour videos in the Lighthouse series. Now we travel to 13 of the most beautiful lighthouses in Michigan to shoot these programs. You'll love the scenery as much as the paintings I do. These videos are $19.95 each, or $199.95 for the whole set. Now this Bob Fagan method of watercolor painting. In this one I show you the methods I most commonly use for making a watercolor. Now you know everybody has to develop their own methods, but in this video you may get some really good ideas. Now this video, the method video, costs $19.95 plus $4 shipping and handling. A lot of the paintings that I've done on television are actually available as what they call limited edition prints. Now what that means is they only print a certain amount of them and then they tear up what they call the plates. And what I do is I sit down and I sign each and every one of them by myself with no help. So it's almost like getting an original. These things are printed on what they call acid-free paper, so that's some of the best stuff you can print on. So take a look at what we have. Each one is $49.95 plus $4 shipping and handling.